Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Welcome to another Quran step. We'll continue our journey through ayah number 30, Surah Al-Baqarah. We've covered up to now the first three parts. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. We'll recite up to where we're going today. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. So we covered the وَإِذْ and when. قَالَ رَبُّكَ, your Lord said, لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ, to the angels. We talked a lot about the angels, the word itself particularly. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to the angels? Inni ja'il, indeed I am putting, fil ardi, on the earth, khalifa, a successor. And we talked a bit about the word khalifa. Now we have the response from the angels, and they say, qalu, they said, ataj'alu fiha, will you place upon it? No, this is the same verb, same root word as ja'il. The root letters are jim, ayn and lam. And this is the present tense, addressing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُوا فِيهَا, will you place upon it, fiha, man, who, yufsidu, causes corruption, fiha, therein, وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء, وَيَسْفِك, and sheds الدِّمَاء, blood. So, let's look at some of the issues that have been raised in the books of tafsir about this. First of all, what does this conversation teach us about asking questions? So, here, the malaika are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a question, effectively. This Hamza. Will you place upon it one who causes corruption therein and sheds blood? أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. So what benefit can we draw from this? First of all, if you look at the direction of the question from the angels, who are they asking? They are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the answer and they don't. So that's the first thing we learn, is that when you don't know the answer about something, ask a question. And don't ask anybody, but ask the one who knows. So that's why Shaykh Al-Jazari, he says, سُؤَالُ مَنْ لَا يَعْلَمُ غَيْرَهُ مِمَّنْ يَعْلَمُ. It teaches us to ask a question when we don't know. To who? Not to another person who also doesn't know, but to somebody who knows. Number two, if you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next part of the ayah, he just replies, قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Indeed, I know what you do not know. He doesn't scold them for asking a question. So this is what Shaykh Al-Jazari points out. Adam intihar, not scolding. As-sa'il, the questioner. وَإِجَابَتِهِ, and what it teaches us, either you should answer him clearly, أو صرفه بلطف, or if you're not going to answer him, you should do so with lutf, with kindness, softness. So subhanallah, there's a very little small lesson for us in there, but it has a big impact on our lives, because I think there's not a single person amongst us who's not a teacher. If you're a parent, you're automatically a teacher. If you're a teacher, you're a teacher. If you are a person who is working in an office, you're working in a supermarket, you're working as a plumber, you're working as a doctor, whatever, where you're working and you know something and other people don't know about that thing, and they might ask you a question. This is teaching us how to behave at that moment. Why are the angels asking? Well, as you can see, they're surprised. And surprise, the cause of surprise are two. Sometimes surprise comes because somebody objects to what you're doing. So somebody brings maybe a huge plate of watermelon when you're eating breakfast or something, and you're surprised. You think this is wrong. So why did you bring that watermelon? Or Sometimes it's envy, it's hasad. You look at somebody, he's doing something, and you, inside, some people feel hasad. They feel he shouldn't have that. Why does he have that very expensive car? Why is he being given the job? Why is he? This is hasad. But these two things, alhamdulillah, the angels do not suffer from this, because they understand everything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is correct, and they do not have envy because they have been created to do good. Subhanallah. So their surprise is because the wisdom of creating man was not apparent to them. So this is why they ask this question. So in their question they describe man, they say man yufsidu fiha. What does this word yufsidu mean? We've dealt with this before, but we'll deal with it again. Al-fasad, let's listen to this definition. Al-khuruj an al-i'tidal wal-istiqamati yudadduhu as-salah. Al-fasad is to leave, khuruj, an al-i'tidal, from the middle path, from the path of mildness. Wal-istiqama, and to be continuous. That's the literal meaning. وَيُضَادُّهُ الصَّلَاحِ. And the opposite of that is salah, which in other languages like islah, to be righteous. يُقال, it is said, فَسَدَ الشَّيْءُ, that something has become fasid, fasadan, وَفُسُودًا, وَأَفْسَدَهُ غَيْرَهُ. And if you want to use the word to say it affected somebody else, you say أَفْسَدَهُ. أَفْسَدَهُ غَيْرَهُ. In other words, it made something else fasid. Shaykh Abu Bakr al-Jazari gives a nice definition also. He says, Al-ifsad, to make something bad, fil ard, in the earth, yakunu bil kufr, is either by disbelief, wa irtikab al-ma'asi, or by sins. This is the reason why corruption spreads in the earth. Basically, it is to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so that's what does corruption mean. What does yasfik mean? Well, it literally means to shed, to pour, is the original meaning. It can be used either for blood or for tears. So here's a sentence that has both. Safaktu ad-dama wad-dama' safkan. Safaktu, I shed. Ad-dam, blood. Wad-dama', tears. Safkan is just a way of emphasis. It's called maf'ul al-mutlaq. Note the difference. In English we use the word shed when we're talking about blood and tears, but in Arabic the word safk has more of the idea of pouring, whereas in English when you say shed, you shed something, you eliminate something, so it doesn't imply that there's a lot within the word. It might be the context tells you they shed a lot of blood, you have to use the word a lot, but to shed blood may mean just one person. But here safk is, even in Arabic, it implies that there's a huge amount of blood being poured, even if a single person is killed. Why is shedding blood mentioned after corruption? So if you see the angels, they've said يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء. If you think about it, fasad is any sin. Murder is a sin. So murder is included in fasad, but yet it's still restated there. So this is a very common thing that happens in the Quran, and it is called هذا تخصيص بعد تعميم. In other words, something specific is highlighted after previously being mentioned in something general, ta'mim. Why? لبيان شدة مفسدة القتل. To show us the importance and the horrible nature of killing or murder. So killing without legal justification. Okay, لبيان شدة مفسدة القتل. And when you do that, why is murder very bad? Because it causes very huge corruption in the earth. And then final question today is, how do the angels know about the negatives of man? How do they work out that this thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating, mankind, is going to cause fasad, yufsidu fiha, wa yasfiku ad-dima, and they've even worked out he's going to be killing. So there are various opinions. One is that they have performed qiyas from the behavior of the jinn. So it is said that the jinn were in command of the earth prior to mankind, and they had caused so much fasad, so they thought this is another animal that will do the same thing. Or the angels had some specific knowledge that we are not aware of, which is what they're basing this statement on, or, as I've summarized it, they worked it out from the ingredients. They knew what Adam alayhi salam is made from, and when they looked at this, they realized that the consequence is that he has the ability and inclination to cause fasad and kill. Allah knows best exactly how they worked it out, and these are all ijtihadat from the ulama. They have tried to work out how they knew, and we don't say that one answer is correct and another is wrong. Perhaps they've used multiple ways to do this. One interesting thing to think about, just a moment of reflection, is if you think about fasad and specifically corruption with blood and murder, human beings, was one part of the human being that makes fasad and amplifies the effect of fasad a lot, and that's the ability of the human being to make tools with his fingers and his hands. And if you compare them to all other creations on this planet, none have the hands like a human being, with the thumb and the way the fingers are, and their representation in the brain is amazing. And these fingers make the tools, and it is through these tools that people spread corruption very widely and make weapons to kill people unjustly. So Allah knows best how the angels worked it out, but there's a thought to think about. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.